Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Amazing Art Show. I'm your host, Angie Woolsey. Today we are going to be doing a super fun project. We are going to be doing a 3D sculpture. So today's assignment is you're going to need a lot of stuff. So I'm going to kind of give you a list of things that you might want to go around the house and gather because it's going to take you a while to get everything that you're going to need to get. Let me show you what we're going to be making, and then that might kind of help you decide on what things you kind of want to pick up. So this is our finished, wait a minute, it goes like this. This is our finished piece. And as you can see, it has many parts, many layers, and you can actually view it from all different sides. I kind of picked one as my favorite, but you can look at it all different ways. So as far as gathering things today, let me give you a few suggestions. You are definitely going to need some shoe boxes, and you just need the lid. You could use the deeper part, but for the way we're kind of going to assemble everything, it's better if you just grab the lids. Jewelry boxes that maybe you might have gotten at Christmas, even the small little ones, toilet paper rolls or paper towel rolls. Any type of wood pieces that you might be able to find around the house, or maybe you have somebody in your family that's a woodworker. You can also go to the store and they sell bits of wood in boxes, so you can pick up those kind of things. You can also use, you know, just like pieces of styrofoam that you can build up your layers with. I'm trying to think what else. Textured papers are great for this project. Toothpicks and straws, old keys. If you have any old keys, make sure they're old keys. Also, anything from out in Dad's workshop, maybe some nails, screws, nuts and bolts, things like that. You could take, if you've got some old markers that they're all dried up, you could take the lids off, use those types of things. This is like a found objects kind of project, which is super fun because it's basically just get your hands on whatever you can get them on, and anything that has maybe some texture to it. Definitely, you know, you don't want a lot of flat things. You want things that kind of have some dimension to them. So I'm going to let you guys start going and gathering and getting all the things that you're going to need. One more thing that I'm going to tell you about is that you are going to need either some white or some black or some gold or maybe even silver spray paint. Now you're going to need Mom and Dad's help with this part because this is not something that you can do by yourself. So you can get some for really cheap at like Walmart for like 97 cents. So it's not expensive. One thing, don't forget, you've got to pick this up. You can also get this at Walmart. It is called Tacky Glue, Aleene's Tacky Glue. And you can use your Elmer's glue, but this works a lot better. It's just a little more sticky, it's a little more thick, and it holds things a little bit better. So if you could pick up some of this, it's really cheap. Grab some of this while you're at Walmart getting the spray paint. All of these things are things that you're going to have around the house. So this project is super fun, really easy, and lots of fun to do. So go start gathering all of your things, and when you come back, we're going to get started.
They've stormed beaches and freed countries. Protected the weak and defeated the strong. Shown courage and compassion. They've raised our flag and our hope. They've been called leathernecks. They've been called devil dogs. But above all, they're called Marines.
You'd think it would be easy to tell which kids have trouble with their eyesight.
Here, kitty, kitty. Here, kitty,
But
kitty.
that's not always the case. Even though 1 in 4 children may have a vision problem, eye doctors tell us the symptoms aren't always so obvious. For clues on how to spot the real-life signs of childhood vision problems, visit checkyearly.com, a public service message from the Vision Council of America, and reading is fundamental.
Okay, so we are back. We've got all of our things. You're going to need a big table to spread all this out because you're just going to be going crazy with all the things that you've gathered, all your found objects. I want to talk to you a little bit about the artist that inspired our project today. Her name is Louise Nevelson, and she is a wood sculptor. And this is kind of a little bit about her artwork. The name of this piece is called Night Music. Now, can you think of maybe why she called this Night Music? We talked about this in my class, and we looked at all of the pictures and the things that were inside there. None of us really saw instruments, but we did see some shapes and some things that kind of reminded us of instruments. And since her piece is so abstract, we talked about that probably she wouldn't want to use things that looked exactly like it. She's going more for the idea or the feeling of instruments. So as you're kind of taking a look at this, if you'll look and see if you see any shapes that maybe remind you of instruments. And definitely the color that it's painted, it also kind of reminds you of brass instruments that you might see in the orchestra. So this is our inspiration piece today. So we're going to get started. The first thing I need you to do is grab your shoebox. And you can actually take those smaller boxes if you happen to find any, and you can actually use those. You might want to do a bigger piece like the one, my example that I showed you, and you might want to kind of do several together in like a collage or an assemblage. So that's kind of up to you. But we're going to kind of start. This is one of those projects you really want to build up layers. It's not about the back of your box showing. It's about getting as many things in there and as many layers as you can. Now, one thing that I want to talk to you about is all of these things that you're bringing together. They may be all kind of weird colors, and when you first put it together, you're going to think this does not look good. It doesn't look like it goes well. But I want to talk to you a little bit about unity, because Louise Nevelson was a genius when it came to unity. And she, even though she was combining all of these different found objects, and she would just go in the streets of New York and just gather up things. Crates and maybe broken furniture and things that she would just find on the street. And she would adhere all these things together either with glue or nails or whatever she wanted to use. And then she would create unity by painting everything the same color. And it makes it all look like it goes together. So as you're working and you're looking at things and you've got all these weird different colors and you may have some things that maybe have writing or text or something like that on them, don't worry about that, because in the end we're going to paint everything the same color, and then it's going to have unity and it's going to all look really, really good. So this is one of those projects. I know I've told you this before. More is better. So bring on the found objects. All right. We're going to start. I like to start with my wood pieces first. So I just ordered a big box of all different kinds of wood pieces. And you know, some of them may have knots in them, and that's no big deal, because remember, we're painting everything. All the colors are going to be covered up. Now this glue that we're going to be using, like I was telling you in the intro, it's a little stickier than normal glue. If you can't get your hands on any of this, you are always able to use, you could use hot glue. Might want to get mom and dad's help for that, or you could use your Elmer's glue, but like I said, you're going to have to let things dry a little bit longer. So basically what I'm wanting to do is I'm just going to start building up layers in here. So my first thing that I need to do is kind of get everything covered. Then from there I can start building up interesting shapes. Now, I talked to you in the intro also about that Louise Nevelson worked abstract. So we're not looking for realistic. I don't want you to have anything in your head that you're wanting to try to create. Don't think about a landscape. Don't think about a face. I want you to let the shapes tell you what they want to be. And it may be something completely abstract. It might remind you of an instrument or something like that. But let the wood and the pieces that you're working with kind of tell you what they want to look like. So work with those interesting shapes. Look at the shapes that complement one another, and kind of go from that point instead of having an idea in mind of what you're wanting to make. All right, so we are just going to continue adding in pieces, and you can turn your wood all different ways, just as long as it will fit. And mine's not going to fit that way, so I'm going to turn it this way. And you will also have, you know, times when you may not have a piece that will necessarily fit down in there. So a good thing to do if you run across that problem is if you'll take just a smaller little piece that you can get in there and just kind of put it in there, and you can build up, just kind of build up a layer. And then when you put your other pieces on top, it's going to cover that area anyway. So our main objective is to kind of get the whole back part of that shoebox covered. So I'm going to just continue working with my different shapes here. If you do not have wood pieces, you might want to use some styrofoam. Like I said, that would work good. You could also use fabric. I'm trying to think of some other things that you guys might have around the house. Cardboard pieces. Maybe get mom or dad to cut up some cardboard pieces would work great if you can't get your hands on some wood. So the goal is to get all of the back part of your piece covered. If you've got a few little spots still showing, that's okay, but try to get them covered as much as you can. So I'm just building my area up because I think I'm going to come in here and maybe put this box lid in place. And another thing that you might want to grab are some paper clips so that you can kind of put some glue on that edge and then hold things together. If you have some little clips, that works great too. So I think I need another layer right here. I think I do. So I'm going to go ahead and put that down. And then I can go ahead and put this part down as well. And I'm covering up some of my pieces that I put down, but that's okay. I've got some pieces of wood that are not wanting to cooperate with me here. So I'm going to continue kind of building up my surface. Now in these boxes that I have, you might also want to put some pieces inside there, some wood pieces inside there, because you really want this to be full of pieces. So I'm going to put this little paper clip here that'll kind of help hold this box to my shoebox. All right, so I'm going to continue filling in. I've got a few more places just so that I can have all that negative space. We want that filled up. That piece will fit perfect. All right. So now we've just about got everything covered. I've got this one little space left, but I'm actually going to stop because I'm going to start building up my other layers on top of here. So I want you to see that most everything is covered, and now is when we're going to kind of start building up those layers. Okay? All right, I'm going to leave my paper clip there because that is still not cooperating with me. Now, look at your shapes, because your shapes kind of tell a story, and so you have to kind of decide what story it's going to tell. So if you kind of lay something down, see what you think about it. If you don't like it, you can always change it. I think I've got a little bit of styrofoam here, and I think I'm going to cut a piece of styrofoam. I think that would be an interesting texture in there. Remember that this is not a project where you want all the same textures. You want some different textures. So you want some rough textures and smooth textures. Sandpaper is another great thing that you can grab maybe out in the garage. See if mom or dad maybe has some of that you can get. And this glue works really well for holding down those weird kind of textures like that. I also want you to think about those little bitty things that you got, like the toothpicks and the numbers, maybe little numbers from your refrigerator if you don't want those anymore, or the nails and screws and things like that. These are the things that you want to add at the very, very end, because these are your detail pieces. So these, although these are the most fun, you have to do all the hard work first, which is building up all those layers, because we don't want it to be all the same level. We want to have different levels and have raised surfaces and some that recede, and so we want to have lots of different layers in here. So I know that you're just dying to get to all that fun little stuff that you gathered, but you have to do all this wood part, you have to do all your styrofoam parts and your cardboard pieces parts first. Then you can get to all that fun stuff. All right, so I'm going to continue building up, and I'm just going to add some more pieces here. Now, Louise Nevelson, we were talking about her at the very beginning of the show, and she got started doing these assemblages because her dad was, he worked at a lumber yard, and so he had lots of leftover pieces, and so he would bring them home, and she would create these wood kind of sculptures. And her family noticed right off the bat that she was just very artistic, so they actually sent her to several art schools. She did everything from in the theater to all the kinds of different art programs. So she had a very interesting life. And then, like I told you, she moved to New York, but when she moved to New York, she had no money to create her art. So that's kind of what got her started, is that she noticed that sometimes these businesses they would throw out these crates, and she thought, I think I could do something with those crates. And that actually is what got her her first art show, was these awesome, very large assemblages that she made. Assemblage is like when you take a whole bunch of objects and you put them all together to create kind of a new piece. So kind of like a collage, but it's kind of bigger pieces. So as I'm continuing to work, I'm looking and I'm not real happy with my shapes here, but I'm going to keep going. So I'm just building up different layers. And I also, I'm going to turn this around so you guys can see. Notice that all your pieces of wood can also come off of that surface plane, and they may kind of hang over. That's great, because when we spray everything the same color, you're going to get some nice depth in there and some really nice positive and negative areas, and that's what you're looking for. So keep adding in those things. I've also found some kind of little dowels. So I think I'm going to put this in here somewhere. I haven't quite decided where yet. This is one of those things where you can just put it all over the place. I think I may slide that over. And I may just start to put my dowel in here maybe. And also, it's kind of important, instead of putting glue over all of your surfaces, if you'll kind of look to see what areas it's going to touch, you can just put the glue in those areas and it'll save you a lot of glue. And sometimes your pieces, as you glue them down, even though this glue is really tacky and it holds pretty well, sometimes your stuff will slide around a little bit. So just keep an eye on it. If it starts to slide, you can move it back. I'm running out of glue. All right, here we go. So I'm going to cover up that little empty spot that we had. All right, I'm going to start putting some shapes inside my box now, my little box lid that I had. And once again, I don't really have anything in mind. I'm just looking for interesting shapes. I'm trying to stay away from the little bitty pieces because I'm still building up all of those layers, so I don't want to get anything too little. Another thing that you might want to think about is that you might want to take some of your pieces, and instead of gluing them down flat, you can glue them up on their sides so that you get some height in there as well. So that's always fun too. One thing I will tell you, when my 6th graders and I were working on this project, they were like coming up with skyscrapers, and I was like, okay, now calm down a little bit, because the way we're going to hang them on the wall, you know, you don't want them sticking out so far that when somebody walks by, it hits them in the head. So kind of keep that in mind. Don't make it too high. Unless maybe, you know, it's going to rest on a table, and then you can just knock yourself out and make it as tall as you want. All right, a different piece there. This is kind of like those of you that like to do puzzles. This is kind of a big puzzle, except there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's kind of building it up however you want to. And I broke this piece because I wanted to maybe have some rough edges in there. And then we can glue that down. All right, so I'm going to show you one more time, just continuing to get some some more layers in there, and I'm still not done. I've got to build up some more layers. Now is really when you want to start building. Some might go almost up to the very top of your lid. Some might even come a little bit out of your lid, and you're going to leave some a little bit lower. So think about that and use that wisely so that you've got some nice variety in there. This is a lot about how you position things. And I've got some wood that is so thin that I can actually cut it with my piece, my scissors. So you might also think about repetition, using the repetition of shape, which is kind of what I'm doing. Got these little pieces here, and I'm going to kind of build up a surface. And remember that if you get something down and you're just not feeling it, you can always move it later. I think I will put this piece here. Now also, something I didn't think about, but you could also get beads. Might also work good if you had some big chunky kind of beads. Would be a good thing. I think I'm going to put some wood on top of my styrofoam. Maybe give that an interesting shape. I like to find in, they've got these boxes that you can buy that have little wood pieces. I like to always find the ones that have interesting kind of shapes on them. I kind of like to play with the idea of those shapes and how they work with the other shapes within my piece. So I found a couple of those and I really like that shape. So I'm going to add some more of those in here. And let me see. I think I'm going to get some of these pieces, and they're really not going to show too much. And I'm going to kind of build up a few areas. So I think I'm going to start over here. And I'm just going to do this one. Let me see here. On top of this one. And then I think I need an interesting shape to go up there. So up on top of here, and these are going to kind of hang out above everything else to kind of hold everything as you're maneuvering these things. And then I think I'll do this shape, kind of pointing off in this direction. So try to keep an open mind so as you're working, the shapes can kind of show you what they want to do. All right, and then I think, let me see here. There's another one of those shapes in here. I think I may try to maybe bring this shape, maybe do it up on the lid of my box. So I'm going to actually put the glue here, and I'm actually going to leave it there for a minute because as it starts to kind of dry and it hits the air, it will get a little more tacky, and that will work good for me. So I'm going to put a few more shapes in here. Let's see, that's that piece there. All right, now we've just about got enough layers built up that we can start working with our smaller things that we gathered up from around the house. All that, you could grab some yarn, pipe cleaners, just think of all kinds of things. If you've got some old maybe toothbrushes or paintbrushes even that you're not going to use anymore, those also make an interesting kind of shape. All right, and I think I'm ready to come in here and try to get this to stick. All right, that's working pretty good. I may have to check on that here in a minute. Okay, so let's get started working on those smaller kind of little pieces. So, okay, so in my little box here, I've got a lot of smaller kinds of shapes, and so this is where you can really come in with that repetition and really add some of those different shapes. Maybe you want your piece to have lots of circles in it. Maybe it's kind of a circular kind of design, or maybe you want to really work, you know, there's like petal shapes and things like that. So kind of think about what you're doing, what kind of look you're going for. This is where you can, you know, you might at this point kind of have a theme in mind. it might kind of be telling you, you know, you might have a certain idea that you're going for at this point. Though keep in mind that we're not wanting to do anything that looks exactly, you know, like something. We're going for more abstract. So use those different shapes. In my example that I showed you earlier, I had these little numbers that you can get to go on the refrigerator and stuff. So we actually kind of made ours into a math problem. And so we did odd numbers or even numbers or numbers that are divisible by 3 or numbers that you multiply by 2. And so that was kind of interesting and fun as well. And so I think I'm going to do a few toothpicks, and then I'm going to come in and put some of my numbers. And remember, a lot of my kids, they just got so excited about doing this that they were just so excited, and then they would bring it to me and their box wouldn't be all that full. I mean, it'd be looking great, but they weren't quite done yet, but they thought they were. And I'd have to say, no, go back, you need more stuff. So keep in mind, the more the better on this project. I'm going to stand that up there. I think I'm going to come in. I think I'm going to do this screw right here. And I'm going to have to glob some glue down in there. And this glue, when it dries, it will dry clear, but if you've got a big glop of glue on there, it will kind of show. So try to keep your glue, you know, don't get crazy with it. Try to keep it under control. And let's see, I think I'm going to do a little shape right there. All right, last thing. This time I decided that since I did odd numbers and numbers that were divisible by 3 in my last one, I think this time I'm going to do even numbers. So I'm going to come in and put my numbers, and you can just randomly put them in different places, or you might have some kind of a pattern. Maybe they go in descending order. It's up to you. And you know, you don't have to use odd or even. You might want to use a combination of both. I think I won't do. Also keep in mind, remember when we've talked in the past about using odd numbers of things, and by that I don't mean necessarily an odd number, I mean your number of objects that are in your work. So try to do things in odd numbers. So I wasn't going to use this 8, but I really wanted to use that too, so now I'm going to add it in there. But I'm going to turn it on its side so it looks a little bit different. All right, we are just about through for today. The last part of our project that we need to do is we're going to go out with Mom and Dad in a very well ventilated place. Pick whatever color you want to do. I mean, you could really make it any color. You could do blues. Maybe you want to do something that matches your room. Any color of spray paint. And you're just going to need to put a couple coats of paint on it. Put something down underneath, well ventilated area, and you're going to spray everything. Don't forget to get the sides, because this is something that you view from all angles, not just from the top. So make sure that you get all those edges as well. All right, that just about wraps us up for today. Today's art quote is, when you are doing a piece, you are with it. You don't want to wait until next week, when experience will have given you something else. By Louise Nevelson. I think that that was an amazing quote and definitely goes with our project that we were working on today, because had it been another day, I might have gathered different found objects. So this is our finished product. I hope that you guys had as much fun as I did. Now go out and make some amazing art.
Hey, this is Taylor Swift. We're hanging out here at Arlington High School. Just finished up a pep rally and it was awesome. My album's been out for about 2 weeks now. I'm very happy to say I wrote every song on that album. And you're watching AISD-TV. Thank you so much. Stay in school, kids.